another edition of Thunderdome. We will be completing the 7.4 quiz today. It happens to be on voting, which we're still waiting on the results as of right now. So, let's check this out. Slide 1, question 1. So, early voting restrictions. Not everybody's been able to vote. Okay, 100 years ago, women got the ability to vote through the 19th Amendment. 15th Amendment was a Civil War amendment, so it happened in the 1860s. And that right there said that all males can vote. And then the 26th Amendment changed it to 18-year-old instead of what before?
20-something?
Yeah, 21. Because if you can die for your country, you should be able to vote in your country. So previously barred from voting, non-property owning white males, women, African Americans, Native Americans, all of those people. So if you look at question number 1, which amendment does not deal with ending voting restrictions? The 21st Amendment. The 21st Amendment ended, it ended prohibition, meaning that it brought alcohol back. So that's number 1. All right, North Carolina voting qualifications. So voter qualifications in North Carolina require you to be how old? 18 years old. Not 16. You have to be a United States citizen. You have to live in the county where you live for 30 days. If you're not currently serving a sentence, for a felony conviction, including probation or parole. So if you are a felon and still, if you're a felon and you are not done with your sentencing yet because you're on probation or parole, you cannot vote. Rights are restored after completion of their sentence in North Carolina, but not all states, but just in North Carolina. You must not be registered to vote in another state here. Okay, so in North Carolina, you gotta be a U.S. citizen. Gotta live in the county for 30 days. Gotta be 18 years or older, and not currently serving a sentence for a felony conviction. All right, question number 3. You must register at least 25 days before the election. I think this year it was actually, you had to be registered by October 9th. So the election was on November 3rd. So October 9th was the day. So you must register at least 25 days before the election. Anything after that, you will not be a registered voter. You can register through the DMV, right, Division of Motor Vehicles, when renewing your driver's license. You can go to the County Board of Elections. You can send an application online or mail. Libraries, public high schools, other state and county offices, mail-in registration forms. It's pretty easy to get registered to vote. Usually what happens is, when you go to renew your license or get your license changed when you're older, 18 years old, they usually ask you. And that's whenever it happens for most people. I do believe you could also do it while you exit high school as well, if you're 18. So you receive a registration card in the mail in 1 to 2 weeks. Now, do you need your voter registration card to vote? No, you don't. So question number 3, can you register to vote 20 days before the election day? That'd be no. Steps in voting. So 1, prepare to vote. So be informed on candidates and issues. A lot of people are not prepared. A lot of people see the general election, so the presidential election, and they see 2 candidates, and they get to choose which one they want right there, and then they see so many names on the ballot, and they have no idea who those people are. Which, in reality, those people and those names actually affect your life more than the president would end up doing ever. So, number 2, go to your polling place. That's the location where voting takes place. So here we go, question number 4. And that's within your precinct, your voting precinct, or your voting district. So I live pretty close to Ashley. But my voting place is Myrtle Grove Middle School. All right? My voting precinct is kind of down towards this area in the 28409 zip code. So it's usually a non-political site, which is weird. It can be a church, it could be a school, it could be something like that, but it's a non-political site. It'd be odd, if you went to the, New Hanover County Center for Republicans to vote, okay? Your polling place is listed on your registration card, and polls open up early and close around 7 or 8. And there's been years that I've voted at 6 o'clock in the morning, okay? This year I early voted, which we'll talk about soon. So at the polls, you check in with the clerk. You show up, and then there's actually a new law. So there's a new North Carolina voter ID law in 2016. They basically said, all right, cool, show your ID to vote. But that was struck down by the courts, saying that some people didn't have IDs. So we can't do that. Number 4, cast your vote. Oh, thank you. So cast your vote, so you can do a secret ballot. North Carolina uses optical scans, bubble sheets, so you actually fill it in just like a test, and then you bring it to a machine. It zips it through there, and it counts your vote, and it tallies it right there for you. So it's a type of voting machine that's left up to the states. Other ways to cast your vote: absentee ballots cast by citizens who know they can't get to the polls of Election Day. This could be somebody who's visiting overseas or just on vacation and haven't come back. Or maybe it's a displaced citizen due to COVID. A lot of people from northern states moved down south but are still residents of the northern states. They didn't go back to vote. They had to do an absentee ballot. And then North Carolina early voting, so allowing citizens to vote several scheduled days in advance. I voted a week early, and I didn't do it in my polling place. There's actually just set up places to do that. I went to Pine Valley Library to do that. It's right behind Slice of Life. Okay. So, do you have to show your ID in North Carolina to be able to vote at your polling place? No, you don't. All right. Number 5, exit polls. So you walk out. You just got done voting. These exit polls are surveys conducted by media or party workers outside of the polling place to get a feel of how people are voting. They're unofficial results. They're not real. All right? These polls have recently become a little less trustworthy. All right? In this past election, the general election that we are experiencing right now in this moment, it had Biden destroyed. But did that happen? No. It's extremely close. So close in some states that they're going to have a recount. So it's interesting to see these polls and how they actually work and who actually answers them. I heard one time, it's like, you know what, when you walk out, and you just voted, and you get asked, who you voted for, usually the smart people don't answer, and they got something to do, and they just walk on past. It's the people who possibly don't have anything to do, and then you can get false information from those people, whatever it is. Maybe they didn't even know who they were voting for in the first place, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know how much you can trust the polls. Returns are counted at this point, so official results, we're still waiting on those in this moment. And they're counted after each polling place closes by election workers. Now, a lot of people are upset that we don't have official concrete results by now about this last election. But guess what? Welcome to how it's always been. I mean, if you think this is different, it's not. The 2000 election, it took a week. Any election prior to this, maybe we had some pretty quick results, but then you start going back to before the internet or anything like that. You're talking about using telegraphs to somehow get this information around. It took sometimes even a month to figure out who was president. So be patient. All right, voting districts, so at-large elections. So these are elections where all voters select from the same group of candidates. So examples here would be United States Senate, the governor, lieutenant governor, North Carolina Supreme Court justices. Those are statewide. Then you get into voting district elections. So voters will select from a different group of candidates depending on what district they live in. So example here would be U.S. House of Representatives, because that is very specific to your place. All right, and North Carolina House and Senate. Again, specific to your place. So those are, I think that might have been the next question. Yeah, that was question 7. And then our final, right here, question number 8. It's your civic responsibility to vote. It's not your civic duty. Duty means you must do it, right? Responsibility means you should do it. So if you don't vote, that's okay. All right? A lot of people are probably like, oh, you didn't vote, you don't have your voice, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, maybe it was your decision to not to vote because you didn't like any of the candidates, and that's fine. But voting gives citizens a chance to voice opinions about officials or issues. Just recently, I think a handful of states just ended up doing what? Passing legal marijuana laws. Okay? So those are some issues that people are voting on their ballots, and then they're definitely voicing their opinions. And this is the power of the people. Vote to actually be represented by people who want, or you think should be representing them in their area. All right, characteristics of voters: positive attitude about government. They believe the government is going to do their job. Higher education level. So a lot of voters end up having some sort of college experience or at least graduate high school. Higher income. Middle-aged citizens are the highest voter turnout, 40 to 60 years old. But many don't vote because of apathy. And that's just lack of interest. They don't think it's really going to do anything for them. You see stuff like, I don't know, I mean, you might have heard it, apathetic students, right? They're not doing their work, all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. That is an example of using apathy, all right? So, apathy really means lack of interest, and a lot of people really don't show interest in voting. We have over 350 million people in the United States. 100 million of those people can't vote because they're under 18 years old. So that leaves 150 million voters, or no, 250 million voters left, right? Guess how many people voted in this past election?
Oh my God, 50 million, something like that.
160 million. One of the highest voter turnouts in decades. And that still leaves 90 million people who did not vote. There's a big joke about it in politics. And it's like, man, if we can get the apathetic party to come out and vote for us, we'd win. Because that's, of course you would. If you got the apathetic, the non-voters to come out and do something and vote for you, oh man, you'd have tons of votes, because that's 90 million just sitting there doing nothing, lack of interest. So that's it for today. I am so happy and just so joyous to be with you here today. Why don't you join me again on Monday, either online or in person? Hit me with that theme song and let's get out of here.